This is Filter Free. I'm your host, TL. I have the panel, and we have the fellas together tonight so we can have a conversation on the state of emergency of the United States. We have been encountering and watching murder porn for a long time now, but because of the death of George Floyd, it has been the catalyst that we've needed to have some very serious conversation and enact some change in our country. Normally, we jump right into the conversation and have a great time and make you guys laugh, but tonight, that's not what this is about. So we're going to start off tonight just a little bit different. Brandon, I've asked you could you lead us in a prayer to start this off so we are focused and moving in the right way. So if you would be so kind, my brother, lead us in prayer tonight.
Absolutely. Let us bow our heads. Dear Heavenly Father, we praise you, Lord God. We love you, Lord God. We honor you, Father God. And we just come to you in Jesus' name, thanking you for allowing us to come together, Father God, to just share our insights, to learn, to grow, to be iron to one another, to help sharpen one another, to strengthen ourselves, and to that you were there to build us up as soldiers in this fight against inequality, against racism, against oppression, and other forms of systems that would hold us down, hold us back from one another. God, we pray for strengthening. We pray for inspiration, Lord God, to keep the journey going and to keep moving forward. We are blessed to be able to have this platform, and we ask that you would expand that, Lord God. Help our voices reach the masses, Father God. Help us to be a support to those out protesting. We're grateful for them and for everything that's taking place right now. We see real change happening, and we believe that truly you are leading the way and opening the doors that's going to make it happen, Father God. And so we just praise you. We're excited for the future and what it's going to hold, and we're so blessed to be a part of it, Lord. So we thank you. Please continue to order our steps, Lord God. Set the pathway before us so we would know how to walk and how to show love, how to be ambassadors for you on this earth, Lord God. We praise you in Jesus' mighty name.
Amen. 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 So as we said a moment ago, this is Filter Free, and we're talking about the state of emergency of the United States. Let's go. How are you guys doing? How's your mental health doing?
I'm doing fucking amazing.
All right.
Come on now.
Okay. What about you, Mr. Giant?
Island. I fucking just released my first official music ever since the beginning of my career of music.
Come on.
My book's doing amazing. I got my first 2 clients for my 12-week program that I just completed. I'm fucking doing great.
All this stuff sounds amazing. Why you look so angry?
Yeah,
because I'm fucking fired up.
Why are black people so angry? Like that's what my problem is with black people.
The real question is, why are you assuming I'm angry? Is it because I'm black?
Yeah. Of course.
Blu2th Owens over there.
y'all know y'all special, right? And I mean that.
Yes.
All right. Well, I'm glad to hear you doing good over there, Wa. James, how you looking? How you feeling?
Man, I'm cool, man. No complaints. This isolation has been tricky for me because I need that reflection. But yesterday I got my first hug in a long time.
Okay.
And so that you never know how much it means, so you like lose it and then you get in this
so
like
you like this is my first hug in a long time. Whoa.
I was like, oh, come here, girl. Anyway, y'all got
Okay. Let's move on to the next person.
Blue, how you holding up over there, brother?
Huh?
How you holding up?
Oh man, I'm doing fantastic.
There you go.
You know, my life is the same, Rona or no Rona. You know what I'm saying?
My
life was the same before Rona. You know what I'm saying? Right. I ain't messing with no corona. You feel me?
I know that's right.
None of that.
Right. Okay. Beacon, you over there?
Yeah.
Okay. How you holding up? How's your mental health, brother?
Man, I'm fired up, bro.
Okay.
I like that hat, Beacon.
Oh, thank you, bro. Yeah, I'm fired up, man. I'm ready to work, dog. I ain't even kicking back. I'm trying to help my community however I can figure out.
Yeah, I've been seeing Beacon in these Facebook streets.
Yeah. I got something coming. I'm gonna need y'all support on it.
You already know.
You already know. You got it.
All right, so I'm going to assume our executive producer, uh, Madam D, is doing well. You know, also, you know, she's been very intricate and integral in the show coming together. So I hope she's doing well. I'm doing all
Ain't
right.
she,
You know what I mean?
ain't she here?
Yeah.
Yeah,
She
she's
around.
here in
Like
name
silence.
only.
Okay. But I heard her coming in. I was about to say we should just ask her how she's
Oh.
doing. I didn't want to be, rude.
Oh yeah. Nah, you know, she don't speak when the camera is rolling. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just hoping and assuming she's doing all right. But outside of that, I'm hanging in there. I'm doing all right. You know what I mean? I ain't got no complaints. You know, I'm mad as hell some days. I've definitely cried.
Yeah, for sure.
It's
Yeah.
you know, to be black in America is a full-time job, yo. Like, I don't think people really understand that, but you can't when you don't have to wear this uniform all day long. You know, you can't take it off. But uh,
I'd even say it's not a full-time job because we don't get paid for it. It's a full-time trauma
It's
though.
a full-time slavery. That's if we don't get paid for it,
that's
we
what it
just
is. Yeah.
indentured
So
servitude.
Consistent trauma.
yeah. So we're all very, very aware of what's been going on. We've seen the protests. Uh, we've seen the looting. We've seen the rioting. We've seen people show their true colors. Uh, as they say, you can only fake the truth, or you can only hide for so long, and then the real you comes out. So first and foremost, I want to say my thoughts and condolences go out to all of the people that we have lost to police brutality, senseless violence. Um, who just died for absolutely no reason. My thoughts and prayers go out to all of you, all of them, and all of their families. But I want to get into it because most of what we're now seeing is as a result of George Floyd. At this point, I think, or I would like to believe that most people know and understand that we're not protesting just because George Floyd was murdered. We're protesting systematic racism, institutionalized racism, and the fact that the police are just absolutely corrupt. And the idea that, hey, it's only one bad cop, only a few bad apples, so we should not view the entire police force as corrupt or as bad is ludicrous when we cannot use that same ideology. So, hey, it's only a handful of black people that mess up, yet still they demonize the entire black race. I want to go to Blu2th first. When we decided to have this impromptu conversation tonight, this was partly your idea, and you had a lot of points that you made that I would love to just jump right into, because I don't think there's any reason for us to slow walk this. We all know what we came here to do. So, Blue, the floor is yours, my brother, and let's get it popping.
Well, I mean, the reason I made that suggestion in the first place is because my sister informed me of the existence of one Candace Owens today and sent me a video where she's saying some very interesting things. And then she sent me another video where Roland Martin, I think his name is, spoke with a few other individuals about what she said. And I just feel like it's very important for us to talk about what needs to be talked about, and what she was doing is highlighting it's an argument, right? So it's an argument in the relationship between black and white people. You know, we're saying something, they're saying no it's not. We're saying yes it is, they're saying no it's not. Now that we have camera phones and some things can't be said no it's not to unequivocally because there's too much evidence, what a person who is losing an argument does, who just wants to be right, is to deflect. Right? They'll say, well, he was a criminal. Right? Okay, the fact that he was a criminal has literally nothing to do with what's going on right now. The fact that there's a place to levy sentences called the court, which is not called the middle of the street. That is what we're talking about. If he was a murderer coming from the scene of a murder and he was killed in the middle of the street, that's not how it's supposed to be done. So we're not necessarily saying, and maybe there are people that are saying that he's a martyr, you know, something like a Martin Luther King or I can't imagine that. Even saying it sounds crazy, but I don't think that George Floyd is Martin Luther King, but I don't think that putting his face on a mural makes him Martin Luther King. I don't think that means we're idolizing him. I think we're doing that as a way to remind people of the injustice that happened to him. That was not the thing, but the straw that broke the camel's back to bring us to this situation right now. Just the fact that you got a man who's being held down for that long, 9 minutes of torture, where he's calling for his mother and saying everything hurts and saying he can't breathe, and the cop is acting as if these are his objectives. So that is really what we need to be talking about, and the fact that there's always going to be people like Candace. You know, there's always going to be somebody who comes and deflects and is, whether knowingly or unknowingly, working for the other side in a situation like this. I don't think she's unintelligent, but I think it's worse when you're intelligent and you use that intelligence for the least productive thing. So I just wanted to see.
I think that's a good point too, man, because what I've come to realize, I talk to people from all different walks of life, white, black, who think, very differently or whatever. And what I've come to realize is a lot of them aren't intentionally just like wrong or uninformed or illogical. They literally, their brain works differently.
Yeah.
Like, they literally are seeing it differently than I am seeing. Like, no amount of me trying to change their mind or point out rationality or logic to them is going to change their opinion, because they literally can't put the one and two together.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was watching that video of her, I don't think she's an actor or actress or what. I literally think she she thinks like that for real.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it's mind blowing.
Let's talk about some of the things she said. Like, what are? I think the main point of hers was his criminal past, and the fact that he seems to be a career criminal. The fact that he held a gun to the stomach of a pregnant woman, and you have to be careful with this stuff, and you have to counter it, because then they create a new platform that makes people who are fighting white supremacy look like advocates of shooting the stomachs of pregnant women.
Right.
That's where that's going.
Right. Or trying to make it seem like that cop was doing us a service. Like, he knew that this guy was a career criminal and did all this stuff, and he was just taking out a bad guy. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay. There's a way to take out a bad guy. And the fact that he is a bad guy is the reason you should have been on the scene, is the reason you should have put him in handcuffs, is the reason you should have put him in a car and taken him to jail, maybe, and sentenced him to death, maybe. I don't know.
Well, Blue, let's be honest, they did put him in handcuffs.
They did. They did.
They did put
because
him
they were
in
cowards, and if they didn't put him in handcuffs, they wouldn't have been able to do that.
Beat the brakes off of him in said car. Now, why they took him back out of the car, I'm still a little lost.
So wait, he was in the car first?
He was in the car first.
I didn't even realize he went in the car first.
Yeah, and got beat down, and then he ended up outside of the vehicle. So I was confused just in that part, right? And then, he was murdered in broad daylight on camera without remorse. Now, when Candace likes to bring up his criminal past, and I've watched several videos of her speaking on this and this other people. It's funny to me how the person that she is working for is a known criminal. I mean, had a good 70 years of being a horrible human being, and yet she has no problem with the fact that the person that she works for and supports is a known rapist, is a known racist, has not paid people who have built his hotels and other buildings. He started a school and did not, and just stole the people's money. Like there's a laundry list of things, and the list goes on. You know what I mean? Of crimes that Donald Trump has done. The fact that he comes from a long line of KKK members. You know what I mean? It's just so much. But, that's okay. She doesn't have an issue with that. But the fact that this black man, who from all other accounts showed that he was an active member in his community, he set it up a ministry outreaches in Houston in the 3rd Ward. Very instrumental. So for all of this to happen, and then what he was accused of, he didn't even do. I mean, her logic of why she does not want to support this man is abhorrent.
I don't think we're supporting him. I think even the fact that if he was an upstanding member of the community, it still wouldn't be relevant. I don't think his anything is relevant. The only thing that was relevant about that entire situation is that he was black. And that is what we're talking about.
Yeah.
That was relevant to the cop. And that was the only thing relevant to the cop.
Yeah.
Right. Because that was my point also. It's not like the cop knew that all this stuff she's talking about, that he put a gun to a pregnant woman's stomach and all this crap. The cop, when he's kneeling on his neck, he doesn't know that about him.
Yeah, he hadn't searched.
He just knows the black dude.
He don't even know he has a record, most likely.
Right.
Let me play half a devil's advocate. He may have known George previously because they worked at the security.
I heard about that.
Now the owner was like, it's a good chance that they may not have known each other because they worked different schedules. But I'm like, y'all been working in the same place for 17 years. I'm sure y'all have seen each other. Y'all done passed each other picking up paychecks on a Friday or what have you. You know what I'm saying? Like, but the owner also said that David, his last name Chauvin, is that how you say it?
Yeah.
But David Chauvin, on the nights that were black nights or they had a black theme, that he was way more aggressive with dealing with the people. So this is somebody who had 22 instances in his jacket of misconduct, and here you are still 19 years on the force. Anybody else would have been kicked out the gate for the thing that he was accused of. So, this, as Blu2th has made it perfectly clear, this ain't about George. This is literally about white supremacy. And he did what he did because he knew, or he felt as though there would be zero repercussions. And at the end of the day, if I've already done 22 things over 19 years and got
every reason to believe it ain't gonna be no repercussions.
Point blank period.
He didn't tell himself that. He had a reason to believe it, and there's a reason why people are comfortable enough to do what they do.
Yeah.
And the system would have protected, even from a man like that who would kill you because that's what he wants to do. If he knew that the system wouldn't protect him, that would protect us.
Yeah.
From people who would otherwise kill us. So the fact that there is a system wherein he feels comfortable on camera with 3 other officers? Was it 3? Other officers standing around basically keeping watch for him, like while he kills this man. Like they're looking out for him. This is a crime happening right now. That's the crime that's happening. Is there's lookouts and there's a man who's killing another man. This is like classic crime, and it's done by cops. And if you guys notice, when the ambulance came, there were no EMTs. Cops got out of the ambulance, grabbed his body, didn't check a pulse, grabbed his body, put him in, got out of there. no emergency medical technicians. So this is a combined effort of many people who were all in cahoots. Like all of the people, from the guy that killed him to the people who were there to the people who picked him up. All of them had to know what was happening. They had to know he was going to kill him, or at least maim him or severely injure him, or they wouldn't have come to pick him up on a stretcher in an ambulance. They had to know that prior to be on their way there. So everybody felt like this is what we're doing now. It was a general consensus that we're killing black people. We found one. We're going to kill him today. That's clearly the plan. That many people were in on, none of which said, hey guys, maybe we shouldn't do that. In order for that to happen, there has to be a system in place that lets you know that you are invincible when you do something like that. And that is the system that we're fighting against, not a system that uplifts George Floyd. Right?
But if we let Sister Candace tell it, police brutality is not a thing, and neither is white supremacy or systemic racism.
Systemic, yes. She calls white supremacy a myth.
I wish she was not afforded a platform. Like when I hear her speak, like my blood boils. Like my spirit is vexed. Like. And I tried, like I literally tried to give her opportunities. I remember when she spoke on a panel with Killer Mike, T.I., it was a few other people, and she spoke, and I was like, let me give this woman a chance. Maybe she's saying something of relevance. You know what I mean? Because if you just instantly shut down what somebody else is saying because you disagree with them, you could be missing out on something and learning something.
Right.
So I took the time out and the opportunity to hear what she had to say. And yeah, it was literally the worst 15 minutes of my life. But because I'm a glutton for punishment, I continue to research and, just to see where she's coming from. And there are times where she says things that make sense. And the problem is when you make sense about a few things, or you're right on a few things, when you have a base that's already fed into your nonsense, they are now believing that everything as a whole that comes from you is accurate. James,
as you know, I had reservations about talking about this topic, and mainly, I think it came from a black tradition of meaning you don't speak ill of the newly deceased, right? That's what I'm from. You know what I'm saying? And even in African tradition, ancient, like you don't talk ill of the dead. Mm-hmm. And for her to not even have had a conversation with him, never shook his hand. How can you speak on this man that's newly gone? He got a 6-year-old baby out there. He got a grown son. How can you speak negatively on him? Like, we don't give you any shine for that, And it's similar to like with Gayle King with Kobe Bryant. Like, Vanessa Bryant is picking out caskets for her husband and her daughter. And you speaking ill of her husband. Like, she got a grown daughter that's, getting ready to go to college. You don't speak ill of the dead. You know what I'm saying? And so, especially if you don't even know the deceased, you don't have no reference for this man. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's my biggest issue that I had with the whole thing. That's just not what I'm from. And I thought as a black tradition, we just don't generally do that, and so that prompted me to say, okay, why are you doing this? You know what I'm saying? That's the other thing that I would ask is like, why and why now? You know what I'm saying? Okay, now because it's a hot topic, it's on every day, it's, 2020 specials done, and I get it. But that's the question is like, why? You just took time to make an 18-minute video about a man that was slowly executed, state-sanctioned execution in front of the world. Why?
But agreed too.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
but agreed that the crime was completely egregious. Like she says, like, the cop should be charged. So you agree with that, but then you're downing the person too.
It's crazy, and that's the thing that having witnessed her track record, her with Kanye West doing a couple things, like, and he mentioned the Killer Mike stuff. Like, she has a track, so she's being paid to create discord and disruption. And that's not it's just, you know, however, I do think that when somebody presents false statements and it's out there in the ethers and people have algorithms and they click on the thing, like that, you should have something to counter.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So if it's a false narrative going, then it should be something that's counters that. You know what I mean? So we can be that and say, "Yo, no, that's not right." But you know, I just think that what she did is it's heinous right now. While there are memorial services and funerals and people mourning and stuff, you speak on this man that you never met, never talked to, never nothing.
Mm-hmm. The reason you don't speak about the dead that way is not for the dead. It's for the people who lost them, you know? And it's just insensitive and in poor taste to do something like that to illustrate something that is to illustrate not only an irrelevant thing, but a thing that's against black people as a black person. You decide you have to do that. You have to dishonor a black person.
Absolutely.
Even if
that's
with
what
the
I'm
truth.
saying.
That's the thing. Like that, what James is talking about, the fact that it's true, you still dishonor that person. You dishonor that person's memory. You dishonor the people who lost him. There's people who love him. Regardless of what his priors are. There's people who love him and knew about some of his priors that didn't know about all of them and found out about them from her. Right? And all of this to illustrate something that isn't even relevant to the reason why people are protesting right now. It isn't really relevant to the reason that even white people are coming to the table right now. And just from that perspective, I think the most wonderful thing about 2020, and you know, so far it ain't been too many, but 2020, But the most wonderful thing about 2020 is that I don't think that we've ever been able to, I don't think we've ever been in an actual position to achieve change where white supremacy is concerned. I think we were in a position to, it's like, you know, you can change the child's behavior by punishing them, which is not the ideal. The ideal would be to convince the child and to convict the child that there's a better way and for them to choose the better way. Then you're actually on the same page. The child is not just doing the right thing to avoid punishment. And right now, we're just for the first time in a position where there's enough compelling evidence and enough white people on our side to create a racist minority. So it's not about a racial minority, it's about a racist minority. And now it's looking like we're achieving that. So you have a whole bunch of look, we're only 2 generations from the civil rights movement. It has not been long.
Not at all.
My mother was an adult when Martin Luther King got shot. So just to think of it that way, it's like, oh, we've come a long way. Yes, we have. It's only been so many years since these things happened. It hasn't been 200 years since the civil rights movement. It was really just yesterday as far as history is concerned. So how far we've come is actually very, very far. But we haven't come to the ideal yet because we're still at a place where we've suppressed the activity of the systematic racism and white supremacy upon which this country is built because it's not accepted. And they won't be able to meet the punishment or whatever we do because we're being wronged with enough strength. So they're amassing themselves so that they can do that. This stuff is happening, right? This stuff is happening. And then they get to the point where they're comfortable enough to start killing black people. And there has to be something that's making them that comfortable. So all of this stuff is brewing under the surface. They're just not, they're still just as racist as they were before. There's absolutely no difference in how racist they are. We didn't change that. We just changed how willing they are to express it. And
No,
then
we have
you
camera phones now. We have camera phones.
We got camera
But
phones
you know,
now. They got
That's
Trump.
that's the only difference.
Okay?
That's
Camera phones, Trump.
the problem with that,
Trump
though,
makes them comfortable. Camera phones makes them seen, right? So it's kind of like a bait and switch, because when Trump went into office, he went into office based upon racist ideals. Like, he would be at rallies and say, back in the good old days, that person would have been carried out of here in a stretcher. Like, he used to say stuff like that at rallies talking about minority people. So when you get somebody like that in office, everybody who's a racist now says, we don't have to suppress it anymore. Yeah. Now we can be openly racist because the president of the United States is just like us.
Let's not forget, too, that at least at one of those rallies, there was an actual black person assaulted.
Yeah, absolutely.
That dude was, I think he had dreads that got punched in the face by a white guy.
At least one, openly. Nothing
Trump,
happened to the white dude.
Trump lied and said, "I'll pay your court fees, your bail for doing it." And then when the guy got arrested and called on him, Trump was like, "Nah, got your neck. Not gonna do it."
So if you're a racist, if you're a white supremacist, and a guy like that becomes president, that's just like a black man becoming president for us.
No, it's not the same. Like we had one, and he had common sense, and he didn't do things that were divisive, and that's one of the reasons why Barack is disliked. He's like, oh, he didn't do enough for black people.
No, but I'm saying is it creates the same excitement.
Right.
Of now I can be openly black. Now I can be openly racist. It's the same type of excitement that comes. Now we got friends in absolutely the highest place. We can do whatever we want to do. And it's no coincidence that that's when police brutality against black, especially men specifically, start getting killed. That's not coincidence.
I want to jump in because I want to jump in, and I don't know if it's, you misspeaking, but you keep saying start getting killed. Like, this is not a new phenomenon.
Oh, no.
Really
we didn't start getting killed.
Yeah. But we never stopped. Like, I want to kind of piggyback to kind of what you said a little earlier as well, as far as what I thought you were going to say is that this was the perfect storm.
Yeah.
For people to acknowledge what was going on, because there's no interruptions, there's no sports, there's no NBA finals, which I would love to be watching right now. There's no concerts going on. There's no schools in session. And so the only thing you could focus on was the brutality, the extreme, excessive brutality of this cop, cavalierly killing this man. And that's another thing I like to mention, going into him and off Candace a little bit, what the quality and the texture of his murder. If I may, the quality of it was, Stephon Clark was shot in his back. He was, running away. He's 30 feet away. Even Amber Geiger, my man, was both them John down in, Texas. He's shot. He's, a distance away. When there is somebody that's under you feel them breathing. Yeah. You feel them squirming. You hear audible sounds of him moaning. That's a different quality. You know what I'm saying? That the quality of that murder is far impactful because you're killing them slowly. There's a different.
He's not the first person that was asphyxiated. He's not the first person that died that way. He's not the first person to die that way at the hand of cops. They've been doing that. Like, I can't breathe. He wasn't the first person to say that.
But on camera. For the world, for the globe, because folks are marching in Ireland and Amsterdam and UK. Like, the world had not seen that level of brutality. Like, we didn't. You know what I'm saying? So, and I think for that to be just on the news and on social media everywhere, I think that was as well with no distractions because everybody's in the house.
I want y'all to tell me if I'm wrong about something. There's something I think that you might I just thought about that. You might disagree with. I don't know, but I don't believe that the rate at which it's happening now, it's always happened. I believe that there is an actual campaign right now. I want to make that clear. So I believe there's a campaign against black men by the police force that started fairly recently beyond all the killing they were already doing.
So I do disagree with that statement. and I disagree with a couple aspects in what James said. So my disagreement goes back to y'all say, you know what? Now we have camera phones. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But guess what? We've been watching folks die on camera phones and getting away with it for over a decade.
That's not a long time, though, bro. That's not a long time.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
just
not a long
saying.
time. It's
What I'm
recent
saying,
history.
all I'm saying is, for over a decade, we have been seeing this. The only thing that has changed in that 10-year span is that the quality of the cameras have gotten better. That's the only difference. That's the only thing that has changed, because if we're gonna be honest, the police force was started from the slave patrol.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So this is always
Slave catchers, yeah, slave catchers.
I don't believe that today is any worse than how it used to be.
I feel
It's
like
just
Rodney
that
King would
we
have
just showing
died
it more.
now. I don't think he would have been beat up now. I think he would have
Right.
died now. Because there's an actual campaign where cops are killing people for doing less than he was doing. I think the difference is not the fact that they were doing it. I think it's the level of severity.
Right.
And I think the presence of Donald Trump has something to do with how comfortable they are doing that.
It's empowering.
And I think that it looks like they're not killing black women. They're not killing
They are.
Mexicans.
Yes, they are.
They are.
They killing black
No,
women
they're
too.
killing everybody, but we're talking about disproportionately right now. So
No, Breonna Taylor, Tatiana,
Tatiana, yeah.
It's
yeah. At the rate at which they're killing black men, I think that
Sandra Bland.
I feel like it's a
Sandra
campaign
Bland.
against black. Maybe this isn't the case, but I feel like there's an actual campaign against black men. If they kill a black woman, they're not going to go necessarily to jail for it, or they're still black. But I think the ultimate goal here is to remove the black male.
I don't know that I think it's like an actual plan. I think it's something that they've been victims of propaganda where they've been taught to be very scared of black people, specifically black men, where they see us as like boogie monsters or fucking like super criminals or some shit with superpowers, super violent and super strong.
Super predators, Hillary Clinton.
Super predators.
Like,
sharks.
They think like that about us.
Tigers.
You know what I'm saying? So when they get into conversations with us, I saw a video the other day where there was a guy, a white cop trying to get a white guy to get out of his car, and he wouldn't get out of the car. And the cop started tasing him and trying to pull him out of the car. He says out of his mouth, the cop says, "Stop reaching." He keeps yelling at him, "Stop reaching, stop reaching." And he says out of his mouth, "I'm not reaching, my gun is over there." And all I could think was, it would never have even got to that point, because the minute that a black person started reaching for anything, that cop would have stepped back and started squeezing the trigger as many times as he possibly. It's a fear response. It's not like okay, I'm intentionally gonna look for black people to murder. In my opinion, I think it's literally they're just subconsciously afraid of us, in an illogical capacity.
Some of us are afraid of us, but nobody's afraid of somebody who has no gun, who has handcuffs on, and is on their stomach in the middle of the street.
But
that's not fear. That's racism.
That's what happens after you're afraid for too long. That becomes hate. You hate when you're afraid of. You know what I'm saying?
When he was standing up, he was afraid.
He was
when
afraid,
they were punching him in the back of the car, they were afraid.
He had.
You know what I'm saying?
He was unarmed, and he had handcuffs on.
Yeah, no, he wasn't afraid of him once he was handcuffed on the ground. He just had the object.
No, but he had handcuffs on when he was apprehended in the first place. He had handcuffs on the whole time. Somebody in a car.
He had handcuffs on when they beat him in the back seat of the car.
Yeah, there's no reason to be afraid of that man at that point.
I'm not talking about him being afraid in the moment, right, of George. I'm talking about him being afraid of black people in general for his career in the police force, and then that turning into a hatred for the object of his fear was the black man. So now he has the object of his fear under his control, and he's going to mistreat that thing.
Right.
I think there's two motives for what they do. I think one of them is fear, and that fear is taught and passed down from generation to generation. But the other thing that's passed down from generation to generation is the idea that a black life doesn't matter. right?
Yeah.
Of course not.
The
I think
idea that a black person has no business running in our neighborhood and should die for that reason, not because he's a threat to us, not because we're fearful of him, but because he has no business near us because we are that superior to him.
You're 3/5 of a human. You're 3/5 of a human.
Right. So let me just take you down the last 3/5.
You're not human. You're not
think
human. And
that is what we're fighting against as much as the fear, I think, is what we have to speak to because, it's funny what the cops are doing and what the white people are doing by starting all these riots for real and like breaking all these windows that everybody knows they're doing right now is proof that they know we need help to be violent. Like as a people,
it's not in our nature.
As a people, we're not a violent people
at all.
If we were a violent people, America would be in a perpetual state of civil war. Because we're being wronged all the time. Like we live in this society. We would always be fighting. We'd always be trying to kill white people, everyone we see, because of slavery, right? Alone. we're not a violent
redlining. Everything.
Not even Malcolm X was really violent. He was trying to meet something with an equal response because he felt it was necessary. He said by any means necessary, not let's go get him. It wasn't that mentality even from his perspective. Yeah, Martin Luther King was more of a look, we need no violence. And Malcolm X was like, if necessary, we need to be able to defend ourselves. But no black person is like, let's just go get him. That's something that the white people in Georgia did to Ahmaud. They just said, he has no business here. We're white, he's black. Let's kill him. That's enough reason for them.
I mean, which kind of brings me to the whole thing as far as if there is no penalty for disrespecting black life, then there is no penalty. Mm-hmm. We see cops get off Philando Castile, like we've seen it on tape. Like if there's no penalty for disrespecting black life,
he wasn't even a cop.
Ahmaud Rashad, Ahmaud Arbery's, murderers or whatever. I mean, it took them 74 days to come get. It took them 74 days. They were home going to 7-Eleven doing their thing, and they killed this dude. So again, if there is no penalty.
But listen, it didn't take them 74 days. They weren't even looking to go after him. Had the video not been leaked, they would not have pursued it. And that's the problem. So you can only imagine how many people who have been murdered, killed, and they just didn't even pursue it.
Ain't no video.
Yeah, I mean,
that's real.
I don't know if y'all saw the report that came out the other day, but the Minneapolis Police Department has 700 untested rape kits going back 30 years.
I saw in an article that it was 13. Crazy. I saw in an article that it was 1,300 or something like that.
That's high.
But still, you got women around here that have gone to you because they have been abused, they have been taken advantage of. You know what I mean? And y'all just don't care. Oh no, we're gonna throw these to the side. Like that's crazy. But I do want to say something because you said, James, their fear, right? Two things.
I said what?
When you were talking about the fear that the police had, was that you?
No, it wasn't me.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're good.
My bad. Forgive me. It's funny because number one, and this is probably the most insignificant thing, but like if we go back to slavery, we were bred to be big, fast, strong, domineering. I'm like, you all literally made us and created us to be superhuman, and now you scared of your creation. Makes absolutely no sense to me, but
makes all the sense in the world.
It makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
It makes it because it's all good as long as it's the reason these people don't. When you were talking about them not looking at us as humans, they don't hate everything that's not a human. They hate the shit that thinks highly of itself that's not a human, that they don't think is a human. Dogs are cool until dogs start demanding rights and equal treatment and shit. Now that shit is, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's cool. When they went chasing after that dude that was running through the neighborhood, I don't even think they were like, let's go murder this dude. they wanted to go assert their authority over him. And
No,
when
they
he
wanted to murder him.
cooperate, then it
by
became
murdering
like,
him.
how dare you don't allow me to fucking take control of your body? Like,
Yeah.
how
Right.
dare you don't acquiesce to my demands? You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, that's the issue that white people have. It's they don't hate you because we're different. They hate us because we're not trying to conform.
Yeah, I think the thing about fear is the catalyst for all of this. Like, because, you know, let's just be honest, man. Like, everything that makes you white is recessive. Everything that makes you black is dominant. Right? So if the whole thing begins with white people knowing that if we mingle too much, it ain't gonna be the black that's erased from the planet. It's gonna be the white. If we continue to mingle, everybody will be black. Not everybody will be white. Because black traits are dominant and white traits. If you got blue eyes and blue eyes, you can have a blue-eyed kid. If you got blue eyes and brown eyes, you are most likely gonna have a brown-eyed kid because that's a dominant trait. You know, I love my black people, so my white people, so I'm not like, I love y'all. But these are just facts. It's like, these are just facts. If, you know, everything that makes you white is a recessive trait. So whiteness is a result of lack. Blackness is a result of a positive. We have more of something. They have less. So you went to a place where it doesn't require so much melanin in your skin, so you lost it. We didn't go somewhere and gain it. They went somewhere and lost it. We can't get a white. They can get a tan because their body says, whew, I need to melanate myself so I don't burn to death. Right? So we are more
But they end up
prepared for life in harsh climates and all types of things than they are to begin with, and then they brought us over here and weeded us out as if they were trying to make the $6 million man. Right?
And they were successful.
And pretty much did. We excel at everything. We are the prevailing culture of the world. Like, the African American is the prevailing culture of the world. So I get the fear. I understand why you'd be afraid of us. But if you really hollered at us, like if you really sat down and talked to us for a second, like, you would realize we don't want to use that power to hurt you. Like, black people, we don't even care about that. Like, nobody's sitting down, what can we do to white people to erase them from there? Like, that ain't even a black thing. Like, we don't.
Yeah.
We want you to enjoy life just like we want to enjoy life. We just don't want to not enjoy life.
However, I do believe that it will be fully warranted if you really knew what they. I mean, I don't know if you guys seen the woman that. It would be fully warranted. There's a woman that going around. She has like a 6-minute clip. It's an amazing, compelling clip, and
Kimberly
she uses,
Kimberly Jones.
But she spoke about the Monopoly board.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Kimberly Jones.
She killed that. She killed
like that. I mean, when you really understand the magnitude of like playing Monopoly,
she's 100% right.
And going around the board, you're going around the board
400
times. Like 400 times. You're playing. You don't get any money. You don't get to acquire any property. You just going around the board, and you're going, and everybody else gets, all the whites, they're making money, they're acquiring property 400 times around the board, and you're just, it is, I mean. And at the end, she said something about us just wanting for civil rights and be glad that it's just civil rights
that we want and not revenge.
And not revenge, man. I mean, because it will be fully warranted. Yeah. It will be fully warranted.
Well, they know that, and that's where the fear comes from. The fear comes
that's
from
where
guilt.
the fear and the guilt comes from. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's guilt.
Black people ain't even built that way. Like, I shared a post.
We don't care. Like, okay, y'all did that. All right. We like that's
but part of it. But
black mentality is y'all did some really heinous stuff. We get that.
But part of it is our forgiveness is directly related or connected to our survival. You know what I'm saying? If me and Blue out in the field and they hang Blue yesterday, tonight, I gotta go back in the field at 4 a.m.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And this is my brother. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, I may have reservations, but my survival is dependent on me forgiving Massa
we're
for
bred
hanging my
to forgive
brother.
as well.
It's a mechanism that we've had to develop to exist and survive. Our forgiveness is directly related to our survival.
That's deep.
You know, and so that's a crazy.
Yeah, that's deep.
But see, and that's why we've talked about doing the show, talking about the PTSD of the Black community, of the Black people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
It's so deep rooted that it is,
and we carry it in our genetic pattern. It's no way, like, you know, my sharecropping grandfather, I carried his stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and it comes up, even though I try to suppress it. I'm just, where is this coming from?
Mm-hmm.
But in the genetic code, it is in us to, you know, and that's an extreme reason why they keep us from knowing who we are.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you who you are, because if I tell you who you are, then you are able to really have tools to navigate me better. You know, because you'll know yourself. You know,
I don't think that white people can imagine that we don't want to eradicate them from the planet, because they eradicate people that aren't their enemies. Like, they eradicate people just for being there.
Just for being there.
Well, I think that's a part of one of the most detrimental parts of the system. Is I call it programming. It's this perpetuated idea that we are dangerous, and you see it on so many levels. It's funny because, you know, the last like 10, 12, 15 minutes of us talking, it keeps taking me back to the Bible. Now, I often look at slavery, American slavery, and I relate it to the time of the Israelites in Egypt. Mm-hmm. To me, it feels like the exact same story.
Very similar.
I can't. To be honest, me personally, I believe that has happened to show us the validity of the Bible. It's just my personal opinion. But you see that under the good Pharaoh, the Israelites, they flourished. Everything was good. Everything was fine. Joseph was the ambassador, Israelite, who was the ambassador, second in command over all of Egypt. Everything was lovely, no issues. We thrived in the place that they gave us. They thrived in the place that they lived.
Yeah.
It was gravy. Now a different Pharaoh comes in, and one of the first things he says is, you see those people over there? If we allow them to, they will get bigger than us and they will take us over. Mm-hmm. Nothing was happening.
Yeah, no.
We weren't hurting anybody. We weren't stealing anything.
Yeah.
We were thriving under God in our little place. And now this man comes in with this fear and this paranoia, and you see it nowadays, and people, and it's so irrational. Because had he taken a moment to just understand who these people were, where they came from, it could have maybe been a totally different response.
Well, that's the thing. You judge by yourself. So
right.
Everyone judges everyone else by what they would do.
Right.
So if you're the kind of person who comes on the scene and says, "Oh, there's people here. How do y'all want to kill them?" Right? You expect everybody else to come on your land and be like,
"How y'all want
to kill them?" And when they said that, nobody was like, "What you mean kill them?" Nobody said that. Everybody was like, "Well, we can do smallpox. We can just shoot. We got muskets. They ain't got no muskets. We can just shoot them. Let me see." And they just went into it. Nobody debated that because they knew what it was. They knew what was up. So it's a matter of their culture to do that. So when they're looking at us, they're thinking, if I were them, everybody thinks if I was you. So if I were them and anybody did to me what I did to them, I'd want to eradicate them from the face of the earth. And I would do everything I can in my power to do that. So their fear is legitimized by their own culture, but not by ours. So it takes a discussion like the one that has to be had now because of what's going on, which I think this is very healthy. I don't think anything about what's happening right now is unhealthy, because anytime you come with this much baggage into an argument, because that's what this is. This is two sides with a lot of baggage coming into an argument trying to resolve things. There's going to be some, well, I thought you wanted this, and I didn't realize that's really what you wanted. And no, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this. And, well, if you wanted that, then why did you do that? And these discussions are having to happen on a grand scale between us, and I think that's beautiful, and I think it's necessary, and I think if there's any good to be gained from the heinous deaths of these people, I think we owe it to them, criminal or non-criminal, right? Because they were unjustly killed, period. We owe it to them to make the world a better place because they died, which makes them a type of martyr, but not the kind that Martin Luther King was. Kind of understood, if this person hadn't died, maybe it would have taken longer for us to get to this point. So their death is for the cause of truth. In that way, in a soft way.
In a way, it was a kind of a sacrifice. You know what I'm saying? If we look at Colin Kaepernick, he sacrificed something that he worked all his life to do. It's all his life to want to play football. He wanted to do it, and he sacrificed that in order for this moment to even happen as well. Yeah. And so it's
and as many memes as you see about Floyd, you see about Kaepernick. So all of this stuff is coming to a head now.
It's definitely coming
to a head.
All of the people, you see a lot of these lists where it lists everybody who was killed recently that we saw, and we got.
It's a perfect storm. And if I may add, it's a slight digression, but directly related. And I Trey saw on my page, there was a anti-lynching legislation the same day as George Floyd's memorial. I'm going to say that one time. There was an anti-lynching legislation that was blocked by Rand Paul the same day of George Floyd's memorial happening. Whoa. It was blocked. Now, what I'll add to that is that this is almost the 200th attempt for the Senate to pass anti-lynching legislation. This since year 19.
Need anti-lynching legislation?
Why do you hold up? For the year 1900, from year 1900, it's 2020. Right. Almost 120 years they've been trying to pass anti-lynching legislation. It was blocked in 2020. They have not been able. I'm bringing it in as far as the systemic part of this. I think it's very relevant, and it just bothered the hell. It bothered the hell out of me, yo. Like I was like, how? Like we see Rand Paul in the front. Rand Paul is collecting bad, press about it because he blocked it. Well, who blocked it in 1990 or 1980 or 1970 or 1960 or you know what I'm saying? Like 100 years. They've been trying, and anti-lynching legislation only applies to us.
Well, hold on.
You understand what I'm saying? Anti-lynching is not for white people. It ain't for Koreans. It ain't for Spanish. Right. Like anti-lynching legislation, the reason that exists is because they were hanging us. And the fact that in 2020 we can't pass it.
You got to look into the definition.
To add one thing to that, James, there is an evangelical group that is currently lobbying the Senate because their standpoint is, well, that's cool if it's anti-lynching against blacks, but you cannot include the LGBT community in that legislation. Well, I shared that on Facebook the other day, and I fact checked it. This group is literally like, okay, y'all can pass it, but you can't include the LGBT community in that legislation, which is absolutely absurd.
First, you have to look at the definition of lynching. As black people, we normally tend to think of lynching as being hung from a tree, but lynching by their definition is actually just mob justice, where like a group of people just decide that you're guilty and then go kill your ass. So it's not specifically hanging from a tree. Lynching is literally just a group of people just deciding to kill you, another citizen, without trying you or sending you to trial. That's what lynching is. So the anti-lynching is literally just saying.
So George Floyd was lynched.
Right.
Oh, he was totally lynched. I mean, and that's why I wanted to. That's absolutely why I wanted to relate this to the topic. The irony of it is that he was lynched. I mean, lynching was done in public, which happened to George Floyd. Yep. It took like most of the time, even when people weren't lynched, like even if they were hung or whatever, their bodies still, even it took time. So it was it wasn't an instant death, and so I think the fact that his memorial, the day that it was blocked, meaning like you don't want to outlaw lynching. You understand? We're not gonna outlaw that. Like Rand Paul, I refuse to outlaw lynching. And there was Rand Paul's statement was, and this is what Kamala Harris had. Rand Paul wanted to add a provision for the perpetrator. Rand Paul said, I forget what it was. Like he wanted to add a provision that was what I think it's
what he wanted to add. What he wanted to add was that his argument was the definition of lynching was too broad. So he was saying the language of the bill.
What if we want to kill him like this?
So he was saying. So what he was saying was, because the language was too vague, they could add 10 years to your sentence for hurting somebody but not actually killing them. So he wanted to add some provisions specifically like,
so they have to die.
You wouldn't be in trouble for bruising a black person or cutting a black person. You can only get in trouble if they actually die from the
Absolutely.
That's what he wanted to add in. So you couldn't get in trouble if you got the mob together and y'all just beat the shit out of the person. You can only get in trouble if you actually killed them when you were doing it.
Wow.
So the bill is literally saying
no things need to exist.
But
if you beat somebody up or if you kill somebody, there's already laws for that, right? Like, ain't it just murder? Ain't there laws for that already?
Even battery.
No battery. Manslaughter, assault. Like, there's so many laws that cover this stuff already. We just want to have something that we can call lynching because we like saying we lynched somebody. Like,
the idea is if you got accused of lynching on top of you killed somebody, right? But they added lynching, it would add 10 years to your sentence, like a hate crime type thing, right? So
right,
as it should.
And to add on to that, like there's a quality of like with the manslaughter and all the other stuff, even like with George Floyd. I don't know if y'all remember the cause of death, the quality of how he died. Like they had to do 2 autopsies because they had to prove that it was asphyxiation. They had to prove that it was asphyxiation, and because they tried to say like they couldn't say he died from COVID-19. They couldn't because that gets the officers off. No matter what, if they said George Floyd had a heart condition, if they said he had anything, they could then prove that he died from that. If the cause of death is everything in this case, and that's why his family had to do a separate autopsy. Toxicology proved he didn't have any drugs in his system as well. They had to prove that too. So because
she said he did.
So Brandon and
she
I
said he had meth and something else.
That's what Candace said.
That's what Candace said.
That's what Candace said.
I read in NPR that he did have fentanyl and methamphetamines in his system.
The second one.
And I actually went and looked that up myself because I wanted to verify what she was saying.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's still irrelevant.
It's still irrelevant.
It is. It's still irrelevant.
The difference between the autopsies, though, because like I said, we looked it up when we were researching earlier. The first autopsy said that he died because of neck compressions and the compressions in his back, right? Then everything else that was mentioned was a underlying condition that may or may not have contributed or could have contributed to his death. The second autopsy, however, just said no, blatantly, this is asphyxiation.
Asphyxiation, right.
I mean, it's also on tape.
But we seen Philando get killed on tape, and that motherfucker walked. Excuse my French.
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. Like
Philando in the same state, and be like, well, maybe he died of something else. So
in the same,
if he was walking down the street and had nothing to do with a cop, he would have died at the same time because of an underlying condition.
But
I don't watch that and come off with that.
No, I don't know if y'all remember. Again, in the context of the murder, he was murdered on Monday. They picked him up on Friday. Throughout that period, Monday through Friday, you saw the DA said, "Well, we don't know." We saw they were until they got a cause of death, they could not say in a public press conference that it was. Even though we saw what we saw, they were not going to confirm anything until there was a cause of death from the autopsy. And it took them all week to confirm his cause of death.
if I can touch back on something that Blue said, this is legitimate. This is my word. This is murder porn. And if it wasn't for the fact that this just happened to be so egregious and this became a global thing, I think this would have got brushed underneath the, swept under the rug like everything else. But because, as y'all stated, it's been a perfect storm. The Rona, folks are stuck in the house. You can't go nowhere. No sports, nothing like that. And this is all you had to see. We have now all 50 states, 18 countries have been protesting about what's going on.
Because people was like, I ain't been able to leave the house in 2 months. We protested.
Give me a reason. Give me a reason.
I mean, we was going to go protest and you want to...
Let's go.
Yes.
Let's go. Yes.
I got to do? Make a sign?
I think the biggest factor is
BLM cool. I can just put BLM on it.
BLM. What'd you say?
I put BLM on it.
I think the biggest factor was people didn't have jobs to go to tomorrow. You know what I'm saying? Why not? If they had to go to work tomorrow,
right?
It wouldn't have been half the people out in the streets that there are.
I said the same thing. And if it was the NBA Finals on, I'd be watching the NBA Finals.
Yeah, there's nothing to do.
But the other thing,
I'm so happy for. I'm sorry, James. I'm almost.
No.
That's one thing I'm so happy for, yo. Because under normal circumstances, my issues with the black community is we don't see stuff through. Like something will happen, we get angry, and the next thing you know, they forcing a Love and Hip Hop reunion down our throat, or a Real Housewives. You know what I'm saying? Just they throw anything else at us to keep us distracted. And now we're in a situation where we don't have the distraction.
Well, now it's too many white people involved, and what they do is they follow through.